Story time, alright. Guess what? I just got done surfing, if you can't tell. And I'm gonna pass this garbage truck. V8. Alright. While I was out surfing, hopefully the noise isn't too bad. And the camera's not moving around too much. Anyway, I was out surfing, and it reminded me, got adjust my mirror, be safe. Reminded me of some story time stories that I don't know if I've told you guys or not. So, yeah. Anyway, V8s, burnouts, crazy stuff like that, doing dumb stuff as a kid. So, me and my buddy Cameron, we were always been in the cars. I told you about this, and I don't know if I told you folks about the burnout I did in my Nova. So I'm gonna back up. I bought a Nova, and it was one of the smog years. Now, I don't mean to offend anybody about Novas and Camaros and stuff like that, but here's my take on them. When I was growing up, if it wasn't a Chevelle or a first-gen Camaro or like a Charger or a Challenger or a Cuda or something like that, or like a fastback Mustang, you know, or whatever, it wasn't a real muscle car. Like mullet Camaros and F-bodies and Trans Ams and stuff like that from, like, I guess anything newer than 72. And if it was like a Duster, a Dart, a Nova, after 72, you know, like 73 or 4, rubber bumpered, whatever, Camaros on up to like the Trans Ams, like they were all, unless it was like a Super Duty 74 or something with a 455, you know, 4-speed Trans Am, they just weren't cool. You could buy them for like $50 or $100. And case in point, I bought a 73 Nova, I think it was a 73, had the rubber bumpers on it, and it was from Canada, and it had a 350. I think I paid $100 for this thing. And it was blue, and you know, everybody asked me why I had it, because it wasn't a cool car and it wasn't something I would normally have, but I had it. And I got it from, I think, a guy that Cameron got a 65 El Camino from or something. I forget what the whole deal was, but we got this dumb Nova. And I don't remember if it had a posi or not. I don't think it did. And I remember I was never very nice to it because I hated it. It was like, you know, I had a 68 Sport Satellite with the 383 that I beat the snot out of too, because it wasn't a Roadrunner or a GTX. It was a Satellite. And I mean, I didn't think it was very cool because it wasn't, you know, real muscle car. But anyway, back up. So here I am in this Nova, and I'm beating around Reno in this thing, and we are trying to beat the living snot out of this thing. And I remember one time it like overheated, and we were going up Kings Row above, like heading towards Cameron's house or McCarran or whatever, and we go to get up there, and like that thing is like knocking and rattling and overheating and having all sorts of problems. I think it probably had a cracked block from overheating it so many times and whatever. I don't know, it probably had a bad water pump or thermostat. I didn't care. At that time, I had a couple cars. I really didn't care about it. But it was a beater. But I could do some gnarly burnouts with it. And I think this one time, not the burnout video, I'll tell you about that in a second, but I know for a fact one time it like died on us going up a hill. And I think I just threw it in neutral and backed it down into a neighborhood and just left it in like a field. And it was like, I don't care if somebody comes and gets it or whatever. And I went back the next morning and it fired up. And I got it cooled off and fired up, and I drove it home. I was asking Cameron about this the other day, if he had any stories. He said, yeah, I should tell you about this one. So at the time I lived in an apartment complex, and on the corner of the apartment, I had the top apartment on the corner, and it overlooked a small parking structure, a parking lot, that had a small entrance on this corner, and across was like a strip mall, and there was like a 7-Eleven, and I was in like this, you know, it's like a street went this way and this way to it, and I was on the corner, and I was the upstairs on the corner apartment, and Cameron's like, you know, what what are we gonna do today or something? I'm like, I'm gonna go out and do a burnout and see if I can blow this thing up. He's like, all right. So I backed it out of my space, out of the parking lot, down into the street, right next to the entrance to the parking lot. This is like almost on the corner. And I just threw this thing in low, and it was just knocking to beat the band. I mean, this thing was like knock, 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 knock. And I just held it to the wood and just started rolling them. Rocking with the brake, and I got the tire going. It was just going. And I went into second to see if it would hold. It wouldn't. Dropped into low and just held that thing to the floor for as long as I could hold it. And it just, like, it was making smoke, and there wasn't much wind that day. And Cameron was kind of up on my balcony, kind of overlooking, kind of kitty corner, overlooking the parking lot and the road. So he had full view of the car and the corner, and he's looking down at me. And I knew he was up there, and I was just like, just ripping this thing. This is before cell phones. You know, this is like, I think we were probably like 18 or 17 or something. I was just letting her get. It finally just stopped spinning the tire. It just didn't have enough power to keep going. It was overheating and knocking. I mean, bad. And about that time, the entire block is covered in smoke. A cop shows up, and so is the fire department. And this cop comes up, and I got the window down, and you know, and I know Cameron's thinking, oh boy, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be great. How's he gonna get out of this one, or is he? He's probably going to jail. I better get the bail money ready. So the cop comes up, and he's like, what the heck's going on over here? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, man. The car's smoking and it's not running good. And I started it, and it's like bang, 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 screech, pop. I just locked up right there. And he just goes, oh my God. Oh, where were you trying to go? And I'm like, well, my parking spot's like right there. He's like, oh, come on, let's get this off the street. I'll help you push it. So he goes and waves off the police, or off the, no. I said, well, I said, you steer and I'll push. And he goes, okay. So he goes around front, and we go to push, and then I had dug a hole, a divot into the pavement, and we rock it. I go, we gotta rock it. It's something stuck, and so we rock it up out of this hole and push this thing into the parking spot. And I like put my arm around his shoulder. I'm like, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate all the help. And walk him out to, like, towards his car. I was like, oh, I'll have it towed away, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay. And he goes and waves off the fire department. It's no big deal. And they're coming over to see what's going on. And I kind of like was blocking this thing. They never saw the divot or the rubber in the road. And the cop didn't know it was a burnout. And they couldn't tell, obviously. I know what the smell of rubber smells like. You guys know what burning rubber smells like. This cop was not a gearhead. And obviously, the fire department was like, I don't think they wanted to get in the middle of it. But as I'm talking to this cop, I'm looking up, and I don't see Cameron up in the balcony anymore. I'm like, well, that's weird. And my balcony had like a railing that went around it. And we're talking like, you know, it was like solid wood, like plywood, and like an upper and lower rail. But there was like a gap at the bottom. And I'm like, know where he went. I can't really see him as I'm talking to this police officer. And then they leave, and I go walking around the staircase to go up to my balcony, and I look up there, and Cameron is like kind of sitting down up against the thing, kind of back, and he's laughing so hard he's having a hard time breathing because he can't believe that what he saw, and he can't believe I'm not going to jail. Because, I mean, I went to jail a lot back then, being an idiot. I could tell you stories about that, and it was always car-related. Always. Over something stupid that I was doing, car-related. Never once that was a speeding ticket or, you know, it was never like display of power, those kinds of tickets, or like going too fast. It was always like didn't pay my registration, so I'd get a warrant, or didn't have insurance on the car, so I'd have a warrant. Like that kind of dumb stuff. I can tell those stories later. Like those, I actually got pulled over 13 times in like 10 miles on the way home. It was all the different police divisions. They were sending me a message. Anyway, that was not this day. I could tell you those days later. But yeah, so he's up there like hysterically. I'm gonna let this person in. This is Aloha. Come on in. You didn't plan your maneuver well, so I'm gonna. You're welcome. An emergency on your part, you know, poor planning is now an emergency. think I sold the car for like $50 or something. I might even sold it for $100. I don't remember, but it was gone. But it had a 350 with a 4-barrel and a turbo 350, and that car, I beat the snot of that poor thing. I think it was like the first year of the hatchback, but it was like the older body. It was like the 68 to 72 body style, but it had like the hatchback. It was ugly, blue. It was pretty Marina blue, but Novus. F bodies. Ugh. Good parts cars, great parts cars. Now they're super popular. But anyway, yeah. No offense to anybody that's a police officer, by the way. You guys all are my heroes. You do a good job, and you keep us safe, roads safe from people like me when we're dumb and stupid when we're young. But you know, and you're also pretty cool for letting me get away with a bunch of stuff I got away with as a kid. But the 80s and early 90s was like epic. Like, oh man. Anyway, that was the burnout. That poor car. Yeah, it died a glorious death. But that burnout was one for the books. I don't know many people that had a cop help them push their car away after a burnout. I'm not the hero in the story. I was actually an immature, irresponsible idiot. But I got lucky and got away with it. Anyway, next story time. See ya. Story time. Nope. 10 and 2. Driving, just got done surfing. I was telling another story, and I decided I would tell you the other story. So, I got this Chevelle from Cameron, and it was hot. Had a motor out of a Outlaw sprint car in it that we got off like the paper or something. The big nickel. I think I told you about the car. It was fast for a while, but so. The Sparks police chief or police captain or whatever, one of the captains had twin daughters, and a buddy of mine was dating a daughter, and I irresponsibly hooked up with one of the other daughters, and he found out and hated me, and I was in Sparks, and I was trying to get to back to my house up to Kings Road. So it was like, I think it was like 10 or 11 miles or something, but like I literally, I got pulled over like a block away from their house. No registration, no insurance, because at the time, now this is the irresponsible thing. I do not advocate this. At the time, so a ticket for no registration was like $75, and insurance was like $105 or something. Maybe been 50 and 75. It was cheap. And you could either pay the ticket or opt to spend the night in jail. And every night in jail was $25. So of course, 2 nights in jail, and they ran it together. So 2 nights in jail or 3 nights in jail equals $75, which paid my whole ticket free, and I have to pay a dime. I would just get 3 hots in the cot and be out. And I would, when I get pulled over and no registration, no insurance, I'd put my wallet under the seat, and my friends, they would just like pick my car up wherever it was and drive it over to the police station and stick my wallet in the car, and I'd get out in 2 or 3 days, get in my car and drive away. So a block away from the house, cop gets me, makes me get out of the car and leave it in this parking lot. He goes across the street and sits in a parking lot and waits. So I wait for like 3 or 4 hours till he leaves, and I make sure he's good and gone, because I know he's watching to see if I go back in the car, and he said if I did, he was going to arrest me. I waited, he leaves, I get in the car, fired up, drive away. I get about a mile away, and another officer pulls me over, a different one. And I'm just taking McCarran. This is one road all the way down, like, to Kings Road. I'm in Sparks, I'm on McCarran, just one street. And I'm not joking. Got pulled over, this guy gives me the same ticket, no registration, no insurance. And I tell him, man, I just got one from the other one. He goes, well, now you got another. I get down about 2 or 3 miles, and I can see sitting off the side of the road another officer. This time it's Highway Patrol. He tags me. Same ticket, no registration, no insurance. And they staggered all my court dates out. I get nagged again. Another, like a sheriff. This time it's a parks guy or whatever. And this goes on and on and on the entire time. I think I got 13 sets of no registration, no insurance in like 11 miles or whatever it is. All the way home. Like an idiot. I didn't pay any of the fines. I just chose to like wait till I got warrants and get arrested. And it could be any time I get pulled over. I lived in fear of like, well, not really fear, it was more like a game. I drive around and wait for a cop to notice the car, pull me over, he'd run my license. I'd get a warrant, I'd put my wallet under the seat. It was like a constant, stupid game. Like, and I know it was really annoying to anybody that was with me. And I know Cameron had to endure it several times. And for me, it was funny, but what an idiot. I probably shouldn't share this story, but like, we do dumb stuff as we're younger, and some of us never grow out of it. And I'm still like 15 and 16 in my head, so I don't go to jail like that anymore, and I do pay my insurance, but you know, I don't know. For you young guys watching this, don't be stupid. Learn from the dummies that went ahead of you, and it isn't paving a trail. It's they made a lot of mistakes on purpose or not because they're dumb and ignorant or whatever. Learn from our mistakes and don't repeat them. Just don't do it. Be smarter than us. Life will be a lot easier, and remember, the choices you make now, if you're a young kid, I got like 16, 17, 15, the choices you make right now will affect you the rest of your life. Trust me. Ask me how I know. I'll see you guys on the next one.